theyeshiva.net.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to start today, Be'ezer Hashem, a new Maamer in Drushim L'Rosh Hashanah, page 108, or Daf Nun Daled, Amid Daled, Nun Daled, column 3. Rosh Hashanah starts after Dvarim. You'll see it's in the middle of Parshas Nitzavim. After Nitzavim starts Drushim L'Rosh Hashanah. Then there's going to be Shuva. Then there's going to be Ha'azinu. If you're by Ha'azinu, you're too far, or by after Ha'azinu b'Zayis HaBracha, you're too far. You want to be after Nitzavim, before Ha'azinu. Page 108. 108, Daf Nun Dalet, column 3. Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar. You see. Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar Chuli. The pasuk says in Tehillim, Perek Kapitel Pei Aleph. We say it in the Shir Shel Yom of Thursday every day. Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar Bakesel Yom Chageinu Ki Choik Li Yisrael Hu Mishpat LeLikutei Yaakov. So literally it means Tikeu Bachodesh. You should blow during the month Shofar. Bakesel Yom Chageinu. In the designated day, or the day that's covered, Bekesa, and the covering and the eclipse of the day of our holiday. It's a statue for the Jewish people. It's a time of justice for the God of Jacob. Literal translation. This Maamer, the Balatanya said, on the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah of the year Tov Kuf Samach Ches. That is 1807. Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah Tov Kuf Samach Ches. That's 1807, because of course Rosh Hashanah Tov Kuf Samach Ches is still 1807 till January, which was also Shabbos Parshas Nitzavim. So he began the Maamer with a pasuk from Tehillim that obviously deals with Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara asks a question. The Gemara says, Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar, you don't blow shofar during the month, you blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara explains the answers as follows. Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar Bakesel Yom Chageinu Zog the Gemara Eizo Chag Shahachodesh B'skasa Boy Have Omer Zeh Rosh Hashanah. There's only one holiday in the Jewish calendar that the moon is eclipsed during that holiday. Pesach is the 15th of the day, beautiful full moon. Sukkot, Yom Kippur, 10th. There's one holiday when you don't see the moon, and that is, of course, Rosh Hashanah, which is Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. It's a new moon, and therefore usually you don't see it, or you see a tiny little sliver of the moon. So, Eizo Chag Shachodesh Miskasabay Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar. Chodesh would mean here the new month, the beginning of the month. Bat Kesel Yom Chageinu, the day of the Chag that is Kesel, from the word Kisui, Lechasot, right? Lechasa Kisui, a Michse, it's covered. The moon is covered. This is Rosh Hashanah. It says Pirush. Bechodesh. What does Bechodesh mean? Chodesh doesn't only mean a month. It means Man Chidush Levana. The time that the moon is renewed, Shemes Chadeshes b'Rosh Chodesh. The moon is reborn, so to speak, on Rosh Chodesh, reborn in the sense that we observe it once again. After it wanes for the 2 weeks, since the 15th day of the month till the end of the month, and then it disappears from the perspective, from the vantage point of citizens that habit, those who inhabit Earth. So it gets renewed on Rosh Chodesh, V'hu Rosh Hashanah, She'azu Chidush Ma'aseh Bereishis, which then is also the renewal not only of the moon but of all creation, like we say in the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, Zeh HaYom Tchilas Ma'asecha Zikaron L'Yom Rishon. In the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, it's brought in Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Chav Zayin. This day is called, we say it in the Musaf, Tchilas Ma'asecha, the beginning of your actions, commemoration of the first day of creation, 5,707 or soon 8 years ago. V'hinei, so that's Tikeu Bachodesh, blow shofar in the time of Chidush, in the time of a new moon and in the time of a new creation. It's the anniversary of the creation of the universe. So no, and Chazal tell us that the world was created on the 25th day of Elul. In fact, Rosh Hashanah was the 6th day of creation, the day that Adam and Chava were created. Rosh Hashanah, hu Yom Vav leBriyas Ha'olam, Yom Briyas Adam HaRishon. Chav Hei was the first Sunday of creation. Then you have Monday was Chavav, Tuesday was Chav Zayin, Wednesday was Chav Ches, and then you have Thursday Chav Tes, Friday, Lamed, and then you have, I'm sorry, Chav Hei, Chav Vav, Chav Zayin, Chav Ches, Chav Tes is Thursday, Chav Tes, and then Friday is the new day, the new month, Aleph Tishrei, which is the first Rosh Hashanah, the day that Adam and Chava are created. V'tzarech lahavin, lamein oisin Rosh Hashanah b'zman chidush ha'olam Maamer shoyeh v'rishon l'maaseh b'reishis. If we say in the Musaf, Zeh hayom tchilas ma'asecha, in other words, we're commemorating the anniversary of creation. Creation, once again, this is the day that creation happened. It's not the day that creation happened. This is the 6th day of creation. Creation happened 6 days earlier. So Rosh Hashanah should be on Chafei Elul, Yom Rishon L'Maaseh B'Neishos. Why do we wait till Yom Shishi? You might say, because we don't want to celebrate the anniversary of creation. We want to celebrate the anniversary of man, the Homo sapien, Adam and Chava. However, we say in the Musaf, Zeh Hayom Tchilas Ma'asecha. That's what we say in the Musaf. The Gemara explains in Rosh Hashanah, at the end of Rosh, close to the end of Rosh Hashanah. This is referring to Rosh Hashanah. We say it about Rosh Hashanah in the Tfilas, the long Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. That's our introduction to what this day is about. But it's not Chilas Masecha. It's the summation of Masecha. It's the 6th day. The answer is the Ksiv Bereishis Bara Elikim. So here he goes into a long explanation. The pasuk says Bereishis Bara Elikim. Now we know the word Elikim is a name of Hashem, and that's the sole name that's used for Maaseh Bereishis. The first psukim, the first chapter of Bereishis only has Elikim. At the end, we're going to have Eila told us Hashemayim V'aretz B'yoyim Asois Hashem Elikim. But for the whole story of creation, it's always Vayar Elikim, Bereishis Bara Elikim, Vayar Elikim, Vayar Elikim. It's all Elikim. Elikim Midas HaTzimtzum. Elikim is associated in Sifrei HaNister with the attribute of Tzimtzum, which means restriction, withdrawal, limitation, concealment. Tzimtzum means litzamtzem, to compress, to make something small, finite, miniature. So Chazal tell us in the Medrash, and Rashi brings it in Bereishis, that l'chatchil, everybody knows Hashem's thought was to create the world with midas hadin, the attribute of din, which is elikim. Once he saw that the world is not going to survive with midas hadin, shitif imay midas harachimim. He partnered midas, he made midas harachimim, the attribute of compassion, a partner. That's why in the story of creation you only have elikim, which is midas hadin, the attribute of judgment. Later he saw, Sinish Knesek, this company is not going to survive. So he says we need a little ingredient. We need a shutfis. Just like a company, you have to bring in a partner, because knowing yourself, this company is not going to work. You need to have a partner who will temper out the who will balance out the situation. That's why later it says B'yoyim Asois Hashem Elokim, Yutkei Vavkei Elokim, which is Midas Harachim. And the question obviously is, what does this mean? I can understand a person builds an organization, a website, a company, a movement, a shul, a career, and you thought about it one way and it doesn't work out, so you say, you know what, we got to restart, recalculate. Huh? Restructure, it's called, yeah. Restructure. We got that. This happens constantly. A person has to be able to say two people fail in life. People who don't have a plan and people who stick to the plan. Right? Yeah. If you're addicted to your plan, then you have to be able to say, you know what, it was garbage. It's time to put it in the dustbin and start again. I got that. And this happens all the time with people, and that's a natural way of living. But l'cha'ira, what happened with Hashem? What did he think? He thought Midas Hadin is going to work. Then he said, You know, it's Mela when somebody's building a house. You know how Jews build a house? You make plans and the blueprint and construction, and then after he finishes building the house, you come in. This is the wrong place. You go back from scratch. But that's because you didn't imagine what it's going to look like. But l'chayre, he knew what it's going to be. So put in midas harachim and lechatchila. Besides, there's another question. He doesn't say all these questions, but it's obvious that this is what's bothering him from his explanation. It says Bereishis bara elikim. He actually created it with elikim. It's not only Allah b'machshava livre b'midas hadin. So first we say it was only a thought. Then he saw that the olam is not existing. So in other words, it actually happened. So how do we understand this whole Maamer Chazal? So Pirush Pshat is as follows. Mitchila haya midas hadin, midas hatzimtzum. Midas hadin here means the midah of tzimtzum. What's the midah of tzimtzum? L'tzamtzum olahalim oirin soif baruch hu. To restrict and to eclipse the light, the energy, the presence of the Infinite One, blessed be He, shekishmoi keinu ein lo soif, which the name captures who He is. Ein soif means, we call it oir ein soif baruch hu, the light of the ein soif, the projection of the ein soif, which its name tells you what it is. It's ein soif, it's infinite, it's endless. Sheyizgala, which is, by the way, the general term, that in Sifrei HaKabbalah and in Sifrei HaChassidus is used for Hashem. Usually the term that's used is Ein Soif Baruch Hu, Ein Soif. And that's very significant because it immediately challenges us to put to rest the notion that God is some existence. There's God in the clouds, in one hand a drill, in the other hand cotton candy, waiting to see what you're going to do. So there's this God, this big, huge, muscular, powerful, dark, powerful eyes, or whatever the image is that people construct, even though it says Leisasa Lecha Pesel V'chal Tmuna, but it's hard to tell that to somebody who's still dealing with 4-year-old experiences of what God means, as discussed once in the past. But immediately, Ein Sof already means something else. Ein Sof means the infinite one. The infinite one means, what does infinite mean? It means there's no space, there's no concept devoid of it. In other words, it's another word for reality. Where is reality? Where is not reality? Does reality end at the end of this book? Does reality end at the end of this table? Does reality end with me? That's called narcissism. Right? Reality ends here, and everything outside of here is not reality. You think it's reality. Everybody understands reality is reality. Wherever, if there is anything anywhere, it's reality. If not, not. So Ein Sof immediately tells us a notion that you're dealing with reality. We're dealing with infinity. So essentially it challenges us to understand this in a more, I would say, sophisticated fashion. But immediately when you're talking about Ein Sof, Kishmoi Keinu Ein Lo Sof. So we wanted Sheyizgala ha'olam liyesh v'davar b'fnei atzma. He wanted the world should emerge as a yesh. A yesh means a something, a thing independently. V'nirgle v'nire la'einei basar gashme. It should appear to the eyes of physical flesh. That's what he wanted.
It's if you look at his lashon, the way he says lahalam orin sober hu shekishmo keinu. Of course, kishmo keinu. I mean, it sounds repetitive. It sounds like almost he's saying, maybe I'm over being medayek, that the point is the Baruch Hashem's very first act was going to be to do something untrue to his name.
Yes.
Think about that. His very first thing was going to be to say,
yes.
Even though he's Ein Sof, he's going to say, my first act is going to show that
yes.
I'm going to pretend not to be an Ein Sof.
Yes, that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. That the genesis of creation is God, so to speak, denying His very name, His very nature. It's the prerequisite for creation is an act of self-forgetfulness or self-suspension. The nature of Hashem, by definition, is Ein Sof. Ein Sof means there's no space devoid of it, there's no concept devoid of it. There's nothing outside of Ein Sof, because if there's something outside of Ein Sof, it's not Ein Sof. Kishmoi Keinu Ein Sof. It's infinite, it's limitless. There's no space that in which it's not fully present. So if that is the situation, if that Ein Sof would not be challenged, there's no way a world emerges as a davar b'fnei atzmai. The world is only an expression of Ein Sof, part of infinity. But he wanted midas hadin. Midas hadin is midas hatzimtzum. What's midas hatzimtzum? To conceal the quality of Ein Sof. So what happens is a world emerges as an independent reality, and it appears to the physical flesh, to the physical eye. And what does it appear as? It appears as exactly what we see. A world that we see as a complete physical reality, to the point that one could live a whole life and comfortably live in a world where atheism is not just tolerated, but it's even hip. Celebrated. It's considered scientific progress, open-mindedness, away from archaic fundamentalist thought. In other words, it's a world that not only tolerates it, but almost invites it. Right, espouses it, invites it, certainly welcomes it, and the person could feel comfortable in this world. If that Ein Sof was not challenged at the beginning of creation, we couldn't even see a physical reality, never mind experience a separate reality. That's why he says here two things. Number one is, the world appears as a yesh v'dava b'fnei atzmai. Number two, v'nigla v'nira le'enei basar gashmi. The physical flesh can perceive it as what? As simple physical reality, which is a quality of the physical eye. Because really, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as is, infinite. We would not be able to see the world as a geshem. And today, as we are developing instruments that are far more mind-stretching, I should say, or mind-bending, we already begin to see the nebulous nature of even physical reality. What we call, materialism for a long time was the god. It ruled with tyranny. The idea of materialism. We live in a very material universe. Today, it's almost laughingstock to say that we live in a material universe. There's very little material about the material universe, but it's certainly perceived that way. Yeah.
Reality is the opposite of Ein Sof.
No, that's my point. Another way of saying Ein Sof is that Hashem is reality. Where is reality? Are you in reality? Huh? You think your community is out of reality? You're also in reality. You're in reality. Reality means how do you define reality? Tell me. Anybody has a definition for reality? I don't know what Mr. Webster says. Huh?
That which we can perceive or conceive of.
Whatever. I don't know. You have definitions.
I think it's good and bad, pros for ra. I think if you feel pain, that's reality. And if you feel pleasure, that's reality. Every person has their own version of reality.
No question, everybody has their own version of reality.
The yesh alone is the area.
Call it from the world real. In other words, all of existence is part of reality. We all live in reality. I can't be out of reality, right? Be not reality. We're all in reality.
Simpson, that was not the Ein Sof.
Huh? So the Ein Sof essentially means that is reality.
But the yesh.
That is reality. Reality is endless. Doesn't stop anywhere. Every concept, every space, it's all part of reality. In other words, if you want, and sometimes it's helpful, it's good to substitute the word God with the word reality.
The absence of light.
The reality of reality. The reality of reality. Or to put it in different words,
Get real.
To put it in different words, we exist in God. We exist in reality. We exist in the Ein Sof. We are an aspect of God. We're an aspect of Ein Sof. We're all an aspect of reality. You're an aspect of reality. I'm an aspect of reality. A frog is an aspect of reality. And a speck of dust is also an aspect of reality.
Is reality relative?
Relative to your perception. I think thoughts.
That too. Huh?
I think people, they think their thoughts in their head, which is not real. It's just your thoughts. They think,
Guaranteed.
oh, that's not reality, it's just your...
Okay, I understand. That's human conversation. I'm not getting into that. Reality versus...
But that is, we think that thoughts are something outside of reality.
Right. They're also reality.
They also-
Yes. They're also reality. Yeah. Okay. V'hu inyin b'reishis bara. That's the meaning of the words b'reishis bara. Shaloshin bara neifel al davar sho nivra yesh me'ayin. This is a quote from the Ramban. The Ramban on the word b'reishis bara says, Rabbeinu Moshe ben Nachman, whenever you use in Lashon Kodesh the word bara, it means something from nothing. Yesh me'ayin. So b'reishis bara Elokim midas hatzimtzum creates yesh me'ayin. V'lecha einei muva. This notion that the world was created yesh me'ayin is a term that's used in most works of Jewish philosophy and Jewish thought. As I told you, the Ramban says it right on the spot in Chumash, and in many, many works of Machshavas Yisrael, the world is created yesh me'ayin, as Jewish speakers love using the Latin word ex nihilo. Ex nihilo is something from nothing. But this doesn't make sense. Why do we call the world yesh me'ayin, something from nothing? It's the other way around. Kula kamei keloi. When we say the world was created something from nothing, it sounds like it was created from nothing. So the world is something and it was created from nothing, but it was created from him. So kula kamei kaloi, everything in his presence is like not. In other words, it doesn't have significance. It doesn't have independent value. V'chol ma'shalamata mata hu yoiser nechshav etzlei la'ayin mamash. The lower you go, the more it's considered ayin. V'chol ma'shalamayla mayla hu yoiser nechshav li'yesh mamash. And whatever is higher is more a yesh. K'may shekasav in the terms of the pasuk lahanchil oy havai yesh. The pasuk says in Mishlei, is the end of the whole Shas Masechta Uktzin. Asda Kadosh Baruch Hu lahanchil l'chol tzadik v'tzadik shai oilamis shenemar lahanchil oy havai yesh. So the ultimate schar is called a yesh. V'lama nikri ishtalshlus ha'oilamis b'shem bria yesh me'ayin. Why is the evolution of the worlds called creation something from nothing? In other words, it comes from a nothing and it emerges into a something. Where really it's the other way around. The higher you go to the source, the more yesh. The more distance you go from the source, the more ayin. So he says, it's the other way around. Kula kamei kaloi. Legabe him, everything is kaloi. And whatever is lamata is more ayin. Whatever is lamaila is more yesh. So it's the other way around. Call it ayin miyesh, not yesh miyayin. For inyanu, the concept is, Kamashakasav, the pasuk says in Tehillim Peidalid, Ki shemesh umagin Hashem alakim. Hashem is a shemesh, a sun, and a magin, a shield. So the world teaches the pasuk, Hashem alakim is a sun and a shield. Gives us heat, gives us warmth, and gives us protection. He says, no. Shemesh umagin Hashem alakim, there's a split here. Havayu b'bchinis moir Hashemesh atzma. Ve'alikim hu b'chinis magin umechsa shu lahalim ulahastir moir guf Hashemesh bal yirah kim b'bchinis ziv ha'ara. Hashem Elikim is like Shemesh and Magin. Hashem is like the sun itself, the ball, the Moir Hashemesh, the sun itself. Elikim is the Magin. The sun has like a, what is it called?
Halo?
Halo? A halo, a shield, a seath, a lavush, to cover it, to block the intensity of the sun, the sun, that we should only experience a ziv, a ray, a glimmer. If you wouldn't have the halo protecting us from the sun, the sun would not project as a ray. The ray would become nullified and lost in this light, in the sun itself. This is what Chazal call. Chazal say, the Gemara says in the beginning of Avodah Zarah that when Mashiach comes, when the Asid Laveh, he's going to take the sun out of its nartik, out of its encasement. And that is going to be a different type of sun. The impact of the sun is going to be different. Now what we have is, we have a ray of the sun that we can enjoy. It gives us light, it gives us heat, it gives us warmth, and it gives us all the benefits. What does this mean spiritually? You'll have the Shemesh without the Magin. Shehu gilui havayu hu ein soif baruch hu ba'atzmei beli magen umechsa ma'alam ha'master. You have the ein soif without the halo, without the encasement that eclipses the infinity. Kamay shekasav, this is what the pasuk says in Yeshaya, v'nigluk void havaya v'ro chol basar shiri'iyah zuhu ri'iyah sichlis basagas alakus. He says the glory of God will be revealed and all flesh will see. What does it mean they'll see? It means they'll see it with their mind's eye, like when you comprehend something. Ki chachamim nikrayim einei ha'eda. Chachamim are always called einei ha'eda, the eyes of the community. Why are the chachamim called the eyes of the community? Why are they called the eyes? Because they have more acute perception. They see, they capture, they get it. That's what a leader is. He sees what other people don't see. It doesn't mean physical vision. It means intellectual vision, moral vision, spiritual vision. That's what a leader needs. Einei ha'eda. To be able, a community without eyes doesn't know where to go, doesn't know how to deal with ditches, with stumbling blocks. Pnei hadar ke pnei hakelev, the Gemara says at the end of Saita. The face of the generation will be like the face of the dogs. As we saw, Salanta says, was a face like a dog. Why so insulting? So he says it's not insulting. A dog goes ahead of the master. But whenever it reaches a fork, the dog turns around to see what the master says. So he says there'll be a generation, pnei hadar ke pnei hakelev. There'll be a lot of leaders, but they're going to be like dogs. Officially they're leaders, but whenever there's a serious choice, they turn around. And they see what the Olam wants, where the wind is blowing, and that becomes the decision. In other words, they'll always tell you, it's a good idea, but I cannot be first to do it. That's the line. I cannot be first to do it because if there's no momentum behind me, I can't do it. So Einei Ha'eda means to have vision. Uksiv ki ayin ba'ayin yiru b'shuv Hashem l'sheva siyin. Yeshaya Hanavi says, eye with eye, ayin ba'ayin, eye to eye, they will see how Hashem returns. Meaning, shelo yiyah oid helam v'hester chemer agashmi. Hamachaso master ala ruchnis oid Hashem u'kedushosoi. There will not be any more a concealment of brute materialism, which eclipses the ruchnius. What's the ruchnius? Oir Hashem u'kedushosoi, the presence of God and His holiness. V'heim shamayim v'eretz gashmi v'chol hashabam. What is this chomer hagashmi? Everything, heaven, earth, and anything that's in it. Rak hashamayim v'achadoshim v'eretz achadosh asher niyosim. Yeshaya Hanavi says at the end, the Perek Samach Vav, there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. What does it mean? There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth? It means you'll look at heaven and you'll see a different heaven. You look at earth, you'll see a different earth. It's the same heaven and earth. But what you see is ani oisa. You see that it's my energy. It's Ein Sof. There's nothing but the Ein Sof. The world is divine. The world is essentially divine energy. But the sun is eclipsed. Because the sun is eclipsed, we have only access to the mugging. And therefore you can get little rays of the sun that don't burn you up. You can have an ego, you can have autonomy, and the world looks like a physical place, even though it's not. And therefore, Kishemesh or Muggin Hashem Elokim is two things. The Shemesh is Hashem, the Muggin for the Shemesh is Elokim. That's how he teaches the pasuk. V'zeu briyas shemayim va'aretz me'ayin liyesh mamish. This is pshat. The world was created me'ayin liyesh. Tahainu sheyiyeh hagilui haziv b'pchinas yesh me'ayin ve'efes mamish kishahoya b'mekayra. The ray of the divine should come out as a yesh from a state of ayin. When was it in a state of ayin? When it was in its source. Sha'az haya batal v'nichlo b'makir hamoyer ve'ein oile b'shem oyer v'zivkla. When the ray of the sun is in the sun itself, it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have an independent reality. It's submerged in the source of the luminary. It doesn't have a name. Once the ray comes out of the sun, it assumes status and prominence and significance. But in the case of the sun, the ray actually leaves the sun, so it can assume its own independent reality. When it's in the sun, you don't look at the sun and you say, oh, I see. You don't talk about a light wave in the solar core. You understood? Mm-hmm. You talk about light waves here. We're all experiencing light waves, but in the solar core, in the moyer, in the guf Hashemesh, in the sun itself, you don't talk about a light wave. Mm. Why don't you talk about a light wave? Not because it's not there. It's subsumed. It's submerged. Here, a light wave has a lot of chshivas. Right? In Chelm, they once had a debate, what's more important, the sun or the moon? So for 7 days they argued and they came to a conclusion that the moon is far more important because the sun shines when it's daytime anyway. So who needs it? This is how good the sun is, right? Somebody once said, Rashi is so good that you don't think you need him, right? He's so good you don't think you need him. The Gemara is so clear. So when the ray is in the sun, when the ray is outside of the sun, the light wave is significant. But in the solar core, the light wave is subsumed. It forfeits its independent identity. Einoi oila b'shem klal. But there's a mugging. And the mugging is what weakens the intensity of the sun. And it allows for a ray that we can appreciate, we can absorb. It doesn't burn us up. Even if our planet was a little closer to the sun, not much, just a little closer to the sun, it would not be able to exist. Just if it was further, it would freeze. So that's important to understand that the ziv becomes a yesh only because it goes out of the mucker. But here we're talking about the Ein Sof, so there's no place where the ziv could come out. So that's why he says it's yesh me ayin. His question is, how could you call it ayin? Fakert, Hashem is the real yesh. The answer is, it's talking about the oir. The oir was ayin in the source. And now the oir of the Ein Sof, the divine energy, becomes a yesh. It assumes somewhat of a more limited existence. Because if the moyer was present, it would be ayin. The light, the ray would be ayin, it would be completely subsumed and submerged in the source which is Ein Sof. So the ziv is a yesh which emerges from a state of ayin, because in the source, Einei oila b'shem oir v'ziv klal. It's not oila as a shem oir v'ziv. Ritzoynoi loymar. Ritzoyni loymar. The meaning is this. Sha'av gam amshachas gilui aziv amechayim eslabach b'shamayim b'baretz. The expression of God's ray of light, which gives life and is manifested in heaven and earth through gam kein b'bchinas yesh me'ayin ve'efes mamish. Hashem's energy is called yesh me'ayin. Why? When it was subsumed in its source, it was submerged in the luminary. You can't speak about a light wave in the solar core. What allows the ziv, the ray, to assume an egotistical, not autonomous, never autonomous, but a self-contained reality? You must have the shield. The pasuk says in Mishlei, in Eiyov, literally the pasuk means, where are you going to find chachma? What is it, a diamond? What is it, a can of orange juice? You can find it. Where are you going to find chachma? The Balatanya teaches, no, shagam hisavus chachma ilo nikra yesh me'ayin. Even chachma comes from ayin. Even chachma, the highest level of chachma, seichel, is a yesh me'ayin. In other words, even seichel is a creation. Intellect is not reality. Intellect is a creation into reality. That it also comes yesh me'ayin. V'zehu, this is the meaning of a very strange conversation in Parshas B'Shalach. After Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Jewish people turn to Hashem and they turn to Moshe and they say, Hashem tells to Moshe, they're wondering, Hayesh Havaya B'Kirbeinu Im Ayin. Is Hashem among us or not? Hayesh Hashem B'Kirbeinu Im Ayin. That's the question. Is Hashem among us or not? So he teaches, this is not such a simple question of rabble-rousers. This is a deep question. Pirush, Im Shem Havaya Meir Banu Ayidei HaMagin V'Nartek. What we want to understand, what's our relationship with God now after Yetzias Mitzrayim? Is Shem Hashem shining to us only through the shield? Va'azaya Arizu Nikra Yesh Me'ayin. And then this ray is called Yesh Me'ayin. Im Ayin. Or not. Hainu Shemeir Banu Milmayla Mebchines Magain. The Hainu Me'ein Moitzi Chama Min Artika. Shebchine Zu Nikra Ayin. Are we getting the yesh or are we getting the ayin? If we're getting the divine energy through a shield, hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu, we're getting the yesh. And then it's one relationship. We have identity. Im ayin, no, what we're getting is the solar core. If we're getting the solar core, the ziv, havaya is the energy of Hashem, midas harachamim. That is ayin. That's completely subsumed in the source. Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu. Are we getting a lakus as a yesh? Havaya is becoming a yesh. In other words, the ziv, so to speak, leaves the moyer. The ray leaves the source, so it's perceived as an independent reality, and it gives room for human identity, human choice, human existence, human ego. Im ayin. Or maybe no, it's a different level of reality. We're actually being introduced to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moitzi Chama Min Artika. The sun comes out of the seeth, and therefore the Oir and Ziv doesn't have a Metzias. It's Ayin, Im Ayin. It's not a Yesh anymore. Im Ayin. That's the question they wanted to know about. Yeah.
So it comes out that Ma'ayin is really not a reality of nothingness, it's a relative nothingness.
Right. This ayin that we talk about is really quite big. It's the source of all existence. It's divine energy that animates all existence. But what?
It's more than the yesh, right?
Yes.
It's a relative.
Yes. In other words, it's ayin because it's really ayin. In the Ein Sof, it's ayin. In the solar core. But because it emerges, because of the koyach hatzimtzum midas adin, right? It emerges as a yesh. So therefore, you could get it without the sun. If you would get it with the sun, there wouldn't be a yesh v'davar. It's a limited energy. Hashem animates the world in a restricted way, so everything can assume its own identity, and we don't feel ourselves as Ein Sof, and we look at the world and we see a physical reality. We don't see anything else. We see a real physical world. Is that true or not true? Because of the tzimtzum, it is true. If you can understand the perspective pre-tzimtzum, which still exists, then it's not. As will be explained right here. Page 101, 109, Nun Hey, column 1. We're middle of the page. So in Parshas Beshalach, the Jewish people are leaving after they leave Mitzrayim, and they come to a situation where there's no water. They come to Refidim, there's no water. And they're complaining, why did you take us out of Mitzrayim to kill us and our children and our cattle through thirst? And Moshe is afraid that the Jews are going to stone him.
Can you briefly tell us what today is about? I hear it's
Today is Yud Ches Elul, the 18th day of Elul, which is the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and of the Baal HaTanya. Both of them were born on the 18th day of Elul. Baal Shem Tov in 1698 and the Baal HaTanya in 1745. It happened to be both of them were born on a Wednesday. And therefore, there's an expression that Chai Elul is the Yom HaLedes of Shnei Ma'oros HaGdolim, because it says that on Wednesday Hashem put up in the heavens Shnei Ma'oros HaGdolim, the two great luminaries, the sun and the moon. So there's an expression, Chai Elul is the birthday of Shnei Ma'oros HaGdolim, because they happened both to be born on Chai Elul, which was Wednesday, like this year. One in the year Tov Nun Ches, 5,000 Tov Nun Ches Nachas, which is 1698, and the second Al Balatanya, a few decades later, Tov Kuf Hey, which is Hey Alav Tov Hey, which is 1745. So that's known as Chai Elul, or 18th day of Elul.
And no topic today, right?
So when the Jewish people are complaining for water, so Moshe Rabbeinu says they're going to stone me. So Hashem tells him the famous story: take the stick and strike the rock. This is the first time around, and water will come out. Torah finishes the story and says that he called the place Masa and Meriva because of the fight of the Jewish people and the testing of God. What did they say? Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im oyin. Is Hashem among us or not among us? On a literal level, this is a very derogatory, it's a very denigrating story that the Jewish people, after everything they saw, could stand up and ask a question. Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im oyin. Is God among us or not among us? Or not among us? And the Torah says the next portion is Amalek comes and attacks them. That's how people shot. Maamer here, Likkutei Torah, the Baal HaTanya reveals a whole depth to this question, Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im oyin, on a much deeper way. This wasn't stam a question if God is among us. It was actually a very profound question. How is God among us? Is it Yesh Hashem b'kirbeinu, or it's oyin? Is it in a state of yesh, or is it in a state of ayin? Now, one would have to understand why was it then considered as a negative question? It seems, on the contrary, a very profound question, a beautiful question. Okay, that will become clearer soon. But what's the question if he's in the state of yesh or he's in the state of ayin? So this has to do with what he explained, what yesh me ayin is. The Ramban says that Bereshis bara means Hashem created the world yesh me ayin, something from nothing. It's not like the world, something existed and it was developed. It was something from nothing. Now this in ancient Greek philosophy, this was a very big issue. Aristotle disagreed and Plato disagreed. And it's dafka in our generation, when the ideas of the Big Bang emerged, Stam Derech Hagav, which basically defines and says that there's a beginning. There's a beginning to this reality that we call the cosmos, that we call the universe. A Big Bang. The big question is, from a scientific point of view, what was before the Big Bang and what caused the Big Bang? If the material was there ad infinitum, yeah?
Ad infinitum.
Ad infinitum. This is Brooklyn pronunciation. If it was there, what caused at some point the pressure to gather so much that there should be, boom, the explosion of the Big Bang? Right, you had they call it the primordial soup, or what we would call the primordial cholent. Probably looked like a cholent more than like a soup. So what caused suddenly this primordial soup to have so much pressure? If you say it took a year, 2 years, 3 years, what was so it started 3 years before the Big Bang, 10 years, 1 billion years, 100 billion years. What exactly caused it? Science at this point says we don't know. We don't know. Fine. But the Big Bang means there's a beginning. There's a beginning. So the Ramban already speaks about this. Ramban says, Yesh me'ayin. The question he asks here is, why would Chachmei Yisrael refer to the world as Yesh me'ayin? Something from nothing. On the contrary, the world comes from the real Yesh. The world comes from the real Yesh, not from Ayin. It comes from Hashem. That's the real Yesh. Fakert, the world Lagabi, that is Ayin. The world Lagabi, the source is Ayin, is very insignificant, right? Yet we call the world Yesh, and the source of the world we call Ayin. It didn't come from nothing. It came from the creator of the world. That was the question. So the answer he suggests here in this Maamer of Tikeu Bachodesh Shofar, has to do with the idea of Shemesh Umogin Hashem Elokim, that in the process of creation there are two names that are employed constantly. The name of Yudkei Vavkei, which we call Havaya, Yudkei Vavkei Hashem, or in the name Elokim. And David HaMelech defines them as the sun and the encasement of the sun, the shield of the sun, the
Sheath.
Huh?
Sheath.
Yeah, sheath, the nartek. In Gemara it's called the nartek, the sheath of the sun, which basically eclipses, compromises, dilutes, and weakens, diminishes the impact, the intensity of both the light and the heat, and the fiery heat of the sun. So Havaya Elokim, Elokim is the muggin on the Shemesh. What would there be if there would not be a muggin? So then the Chama would be coming out of its sheath, of its encasement, of its keli, of its container, of its nartek, which would represent two of an intense light and energy for us to be able to deal with. So when Hashem will take out the Chama min Arteka, it's not a simple process because it's very powerful and it's too potent. It may be too potent. The same is true on a spiritual level, that Elikim is the Magain, which basically eclipses the sun itself, that one should be able to get only a ray of the sun. One should be able to get only a glimmer, only a fraction of the light of the sun. So spiritually it means that the Ein Sof is eclipsed by the Shem Elikim, which is the Midas Hadin, which is the Midas Hatzimtzum, that eclipses it, and as a result of that, it allows the world to emerge as an independent reality. When you say that the world was created Yesh Me'ayin, what does it then mean? It means that the light of the divine that animates the world is called Ayin. That's what's called. Why is it called Ayin? Because when this light of Hashem is in its source, in the sun, it doesn't have a status, doesn't have a name, it doesn't have an identity. It's completely forfeited within the source itself. It would be like we said, like the light, like a light wave in the solar core. It doesn't have an autonomous identity. It doesn't even have an identity. It's there. The light waves are outside of the sun. They're certainly in the sun also, but it's subsumed. It's bottled. It's einoi oile b'shem oir v'ziv klal. You don't look at the sun and you say, "Oh, look at the ray inside the sun." It doesn't have a tfisas makom. It doesn't have a significance. It's all part of the sun. So therefore, when it leaves the sun, now it has a name, it has a significance. It's the rays of light that come into everybody's home and come in and illuminate planet Earth. Whoever is in direct contact with it, now it has a yesh, it has a metzias. When it's in its source, it's called ayin. So why is the world called yesh me'ayin? Because the divine energy that gives existence to the world is called ayin. Why is it called ayin? Because in its source, in the divine luminary, it would be defined as ayin. What makes it so significant and so powerful to the point that it animates all of existence is that the source is eclipsed. And because the source is eclipsed, therefore, it can create and give room for a world that has its own limited identity, its own ego, its own autonomy, its own independence, a world that looks like a separate reality of the Ein Sof. Because the Ein Sof is not manifested in a present, revealed way in this physical and conceptual space of our universe. So therefore, the Gilui Haziv, the revelation of a ray, emerging from our perspective as something separate, it's really not separate, because the source is here. It's not like the sun that actually has a physical location, and the ray leaves the sun. That in the mashal and the nimshal doesn't work that way. It's not like the sun itself is only in a certain place and the ray comes out of the sun. The source is here, but what's perceived by the consciousness of the world is the ziv, the ray, the tiny, minute, restricted energy that trickles down and allows for a consciousness of a universe. Every aspect of the universe according to its chemistry and according to its identity. Spiritual creatures, physical creatures, heaven and earth, from the largest galaxy to the tiniest mosquito, to the tiniest flea or worm, which also has its type of consciousness. So therefore, for the ziv to have an independent quality, to emerge as a yesh, it's only through the mugain, and that's called yesh me ayin. The yesh of the world comes from the ayin, from the oir, from the light which is called ayin. And the light itself is a yesh me ayin. It leaves the source from our perspective in order to become a yesh. When the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, they asked this question: Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im ayin? Is Hashem among us or not? It's not a question if He exists among us. It's a profound, very profound question. And that is, what is the nature of our relationship with God today? Do we say that the Shem Havaya is shining to us through the Magain? And if it's through the Magain, so then this ray is called Yesh Me Ayin. It's a Yesh that emerges from its own Ayin. Hayesh Hashem B'kirbeinu, or Im Ayin. Or perhaps it's not that case. Perhaps what is shining in us is not Elikim. We have access to Havaya itself, which is the Shemesh itself, beyond the Magain. In other words, the sun was taken out of its sheath, and therefore, then what would it be called? Then the Ziv that's creating the world would be called Ayin. Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im Ayin. Is the Shem Havaya coming out in a state of Yesh through the Ziv, or is it coming into a state of Ayin because we're having access to the Chama Minar Teika? In other words, this is really a question about the journey of Jewish history. Is it that we're going to experience the world from the perspective of Ein Sof without autonomy, or is it that we're going to experience the world as an independent reality? This is a profound question that's bothering the Jewish people. They want Moshe Rabbeinu to explain to them and guide them what this journey is going to look like, with extreme ramifications. Why are we complaining about this question? Masa, Meriva, Refidim, Amalek. Okay, it's obviously elevated to another level, but we'll soon see what the issue here is with this question. So now he continues. He says, V'zeu inyan bereishis bar elikim. The line starts, inyan bereishis bar elikim. Elikim hainu b'chinas haziv hanimshach al yedei hamagin. Elikim is God, it's the ray that is communicated through the shield. Nikra bria yesh me'ayin. This is called the bria, which is yesh me'ayin. Ella shehu inyan bria sheba'atzilus hainu b'chinas v'hachachma me'ayin timotzi. Here the bria is still on a higher state of consciousness. It's called the world of Atzilus, which is what the pasuk says in Iyov. The chachma comes from ayin. Basically, the chachma itself comes from a state of ayin. It's a yesh that comes out of ayin. Okay, now there is a longer footnote, probably by the Tzemach Tzedek, where he discusses some of these ideas from a more esoteric point of view. So I want to go till the end of the parentheses, if you'll see, The end of the parentheses starts the line B'chinas yesh me'ayin, v'kach hayu klulim, v'kach hayu klulim. V'kach hayu klulim kol ha'olam is v'abriyim b'matzilim baruch hu b'chinas helam. Thus, all the worlds, all the creations were first submerged in their ma'atzil. Ma'atzil means, in Bahaloischa we have Hashem tells Moshe, v'atzalti min haruach asher alecha. I will be matzil, I will emanate is the word. I will emanate from the spirit that's on you. I will emanate it to 70 elders who were appointed by Moshe to be prophets together with them. So the matzil is the emanator of light, like the sun would be the emanator of the ziv. So he says all the worlds were included in the original matzil, in the source. B'chinas helam and concealment, v'yitziasa me helam elagilui. Liyus gilui ha'olam ezra bruim b'chinas yesh v'davar b'fnei atzmai, or b'chinas ziv ha'arabel vad. Them emerging from concealment to revelation, that there should be a concrete reality which we call worlds or creations, as a yesh, as something, and an independent reality, ziv, this is essentially a ray of this light, or Kamashakasav, we say in the morning in Tehillim, Yahalu Hashem Hashem Kiniskov Shmai Lavadai, Hoidai al Eretz V'Shamayim. Hoidai means his glory, his splendor, his ray, Hoid V'Hadar. Like Karnei Hoid of Moshe, right? Hoid al Eretz V'Shamayim. And this is what we call Yesh Me'ayin Mamash. Yesh Me'ayin Mamash. Yesh Me'ayin is not only about how it started, but it's a definition of current existence. That it's a yesh of the state of ayin. Parentheses, Pirush. Sha'olam es hayuklulim, when we say the worlds were included in the source. Hainu ki yadua b'pirush kiloi machshavosei machshavoseichen. We know the pshat of it, the Navi Yeshaya says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. The ba'adam hamachshava le'tifal ma'uma. By a person, thought doesn't accomplish anything. You think of something, it's a dream. Hashem, when he had a thought and a will to create, so the world was created through this thought. I think, therefore I am. He thought, therefore it was. So when he had a thought to create the world, that thought already constitutes the structure and the existence of all the worlds. This doesn't mean that the world the way it is now existed in thought when he had a will for it. The koyach of the world, the ruchnius of the world. The hainu shekemoshi yashasiya gashmiyas. Every physical phenomenon in this world has a spiritual source. Take the sweetness of an apple. Where does sweetness of an apple come? Mimazel hamakaboy. The Chazal say every plant, every bush, every fruit has a mazel that strikes in and says grow. The gavoya me'al gavoya shayma. The pasuk says in Kehelas, and it goes higher and higher. Al derech zeu shayrish ha'asiyah l'mayla batzilus k'moy gashmi shar sheberuchnius u'achachma shenikra ki aksil b'choshech haylach. Everything, every phenomenon in this world doesn't begin with physicality. It begins with a spiritual energy that then reincarnates and assumes material reincarnations. So light doesn't begin with physical light, it begins with spiritual light. Spiritual light is called chachma. The pasuk says, Haksil b'choshech haylach. The fool walks in darkness. Darkness and light is a euphemism for wisdom. But it's not just a euphemism. Light begins in wisdom. But then when wisdom evolves, it assumes a material incarnation until it becomes physical light. The sweetness of an apple doesn't begin with the sweetness of an apple. There's a concept of sweetness, spiritual and spiritual worlds. And then it evolves. It goes through a process of evolution from the spiritual to the physical. And in each universe, it assumes a more brute incarnation until it assumes a very physical incarnation. So when you say the whole world was really included in the source, like the ray of the sun in the sun itself, right? In other words, in Hashem you have the whole world. This means when there was a machshava to create the world, you have the whole world, but it would be like an architect who dreams up the design of a house. The whole house is in his mind. But what do we mean the whole house is in his mind? The couches, the wiring, the ceilings, the foundations, they're not in his mind. The design of the house, the energy of the house, the look of the house, the concept of the house, and the physical house is really just an expression of that concept. So the world begins, it originates in the ray that is within the source. And then it goes out from a state of concealment to a state of revelation where it assumes the concrete manifestation of the world on every level of existence, from the spiritual to the physical. V'zehu ha'inyin shahayu klulim ha'bruyim b'machshava ilah k'sha'ala b'rtzoyna ki loy machshava yisem machshava yiseicha u'b'machshava achas nishavu b'ruchnius yesh me'ayin. In one machshava, all the worlds were created. Yesh me'ayin. V'sheyumshach ha'asiyah gashmis af mebchinas ma Sho kolol b'machshava hu vaday gam ken yesh me'ayin. She'ishavos hagashmis meruchnis ein lecha yesh me'ayin gadol mizah. There's two states of yesh me'ayin. For the creation of a ruchnis, the world is also yesh me'ayin. For there to be validity, significance to that ziv, that itself is a yesh me'ayin, because the ziv itself is ayin. Now comes stage B, where it comes out of the womb, so to speak, from thought into asiyah. This is, of course, yesh me'ayin. This is a whole new yesh me'ayin, from ruchnius to gashmis. But even from godliness to ruchnius is yesh me'ayin. From the source of the sun to the ray of the sun to the ziv is already a process of yesh me'ayin. Even the way it's still in the divine womb, in the divine thought. But that is all a spiritual universe. In other words, you have the whole universe on many different levels. There are parallel universes. Parallel universes, we're talking Kabbalistically speaking, parallel universes, means that the entire world exists on various planes. So the apple here, you could discuss a cup of coffee in Olam HaAsiyah. You could discuss a cup of coffee in Olam HaYitzirah, in Olam HaBriyah. It's the same cup of coffee, but it doesn't necessarily have physical properties. It's the concept of coffee. It's the concept of sweetness. It's the concept of femininity. It's the concept of light. And what does the concept of light mean? In every world it has a different projection. In this world it means something physical and tangible. But removing the coverings, you could look into it and you could see what it is in its source. Where does it begin? It begins as divine energy. That's what it is. And then it assumes a physical incarnation, which we call a yesh. And even in its ultimate beginning, it's called yesh me'ayin. Why? Because really the ray, which is the world, the divine energy, is subsumed in the source. But he allows for the process of concealing the shemesh, so that the magin should allow for the yesh, which means the ziv, to emerge, hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu, and then it goes through the whole process of thought to speech to action, and that's the world ultimately we inhabit.
Even machshava is yesh me'ayin?
Yeah. Even machshava. Like the ziv in the shemesh.
What is the yesh machshava?
A world, divine energy that is defined as a world, whether it's chachma or bina or whatever it is, but it's already not, it's not the Ein Sof in its full intensity. V'zehu, this is what we say in the morning, Baruch sha'amar v'haya ha'olam. Blessed is the one who said and the world came out. Hainu mashenishavu b'machshava achas. The sha'amar v'haya ha'olam is the first world. It's the world that came through one thought. Ki hu amar vayehi, v'hu gam kein yesh me'ayin. Baruch sha'amar v'haya ha'olam, it's the olam that's still from Amar, from the one machshava came on olam. V'hu gam kein yesh me'ayin al derech v'hachachma me'ayin timotze. Shagam hisavus chachma da'atzilus. Chachma v'atzilus, which is absolute divine energy. Nikra yesh me'ayin. Akshazeo yesh me'ayin beruchnis. V'achar kach baruch oimer v'oisa. Shuyumshach hayisavos ala poil meruchnis legashmis. So gam ken yesh me'ayin mamash. Sheishavos hagashmis me'aruchnis k'moy oir gashmi me'achachma she'ruchnis hu vada yesh me'ayin val derech zebechol nevraim. So you have Baruch sha'amar v'haya ha'olam. What do you have after that? Baruch oimer v'oisa. Baruch oimer v'oisa. What's the difference of Amar v'haya ha'olam and oimer v'oisa? Amar v'haya ha'olam is still the whole world, but it's the world in a state of Amar. Oimer v'oisa is the world in a state of Asiyah. The same universe, but this is a spiritual universe, an abstract universe. And then every aspect assumes a physical incarnation. This is what's called the evolutionary process, from the spiritual to the physical. It's called Seder Hishtalshelus. So that means when you're looking at snow, you're looking at a snowfall, you're looking at a rainfall, you're looking at a lightning, at a thunder, you're looking at an ocean, you're looking at the process of a tree growing. You could look at it from many perspectives. From a superficial perspective, all you see is snowflakes. An opportunity to build a snowman, and the kids are excited. There's no school, as winter will soon come. Fine, that's one level. Then you could look at it from a much more sophisticated, say, the meteorologist, the scientist who understands how snowflakes form and what's the climate that's necessary for their formation and what they're made up of. And that's very real. The chemistry of the science of a snowfall, which is of course very fascinating. But that's all dissecting the physical properties of the snowflakes. But now you try to understand what is the energy. There's a Dvar Hashem. There's a unique divine energy that's giving rise to these physical properties. The snow doesn't begin as physical snow. The snow begins as a concept. And that concept you can elevate one world, go to one world, go to another, and in each world there's snow. Until you start off with the world of Atzilus, which is basically the whole world, but the way the world is in his womb. It's basically the world in the mind of the architect. It's the house in the mind where you have the whole house, but it's all brain waves. It's all still a spiritual entity. It's still a metaphysical entity, which will be manifested one day in physical pipes and physical foundations and physical wires and ceilings and floors and all the components of the house, till the last couch, till the last granite counter, till the food in the refrigerator. Well, that's not the architect's domain, actually, or the refrigerator at all. But it all begins in thought. But here, it's not just a plan of the house. It's actually the house itself in an elevated, sublime form. And then you have what's called Seder Shtalshlos, the evolutionary process. And already the original house is already Yesh Me'ayin. It's already Yesh Me'ayin. And then, when it comes out into a physical incarnation, that's Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam, and then Baruch Omer V'oisa, the way it comes into Asiyah. That's what he says. So, for example, you have Chachma is light, but it's not the light that we know. But the reason light travels 186,000 miles per second, yeah? The reason light travels 100,000 miles per second is because it's Chachma. So in Chachma, it's not expressed in speed, because Chachma is a metaphysical phenomenon. When Chachma is expressed in physical property, we call light, it has different properties than most other things that we recognize. It has paradoxes. It has an intense speed that is extraordinary. But what is it really? It's really a manifestation of the physical Chachma. So really an understanding of the universe means an understanding of the universe on all of its levels throughout the entire evolutionary process, not to be confused with another evolutionary process of Darwin's evolution. We're not talking here about Darwin evolution. That's evolution from the whatever, that's another form of evolution. Here we're talking about the evolution from Atzilus to Bria, Yitzira, Asiyah. We're talking about the evolution from the spiritual to the physical. Well said. You understood what he said? He said, so there's two stages of Yesh Me'ayin. There's the original Yesh Me'ayin, which is the divine energy breaking away from its source, from our perspective. Breaking, not from a real, from our, it breaks away from its source, and therefore it's called Yesh. It's called a Yesh. Like the Ziv has its own identity, meaning the divine energy which assumes a reality which we would ultimately call the universe, which is the whole universe, the way it's subsumed in the divine, the way it's really divine energy. And then there is the second stage of Yesh Me'ayin, where it actually breaks away from the world of the spirit into the world of matter. Now we know today, this was Einstein's great contribution, is that matter and energy are interchangeable. Where they used to think that matter and energy are two separate realities, matter and energy are interchangeable. Okay, so what Einstein called energy is not what we're calling energy, but nonetheless the idea is that the Geshem and the Ruach are closer than one imagines. So that the matter is really essentially also another form of energy. That's in terms of science. In terms of Torah, of Pnimiyus HaTorah, what we mean is that the matter is really that world. It's really energy expressed through matter. And therefore the very makeup of the matter essentially is also spiritual energy that's just assumes a veneer of matter. And we know that, we've mentioned this quite a few times, the more the universe is dissected, anybody who reads any cutting edge articles, essays, journals, about what is the world made up of, it's more and more going away from a simple materialistic nature. To say today that the world is a material place, is almost making it's almost a mockery to say that. The more and more one discovers that at the core of tangible reality is something as intangible beyond even our imagination. So he finishes here this paragraph. He says, "Al derech zan is bayer beinyin almedis galya v'almedis kasya." This is the difference between the revealed world and the unconscious, the concealed world. Alma desgalya hu shenirim hamadregas mufradim begilui. Alma desgalya means all the madregas are seen as separate in a revealed way. Alma deskasya hainu shem ptelim b'metziyas b'mekayra. Alma deskasya means in the source there's still batal b'metziyas. In other words, it's an ayin. So you have two, when you speak about the world, even the ruchnis, the worlds, Alma desgalya means you have a world that you could talk about. Alma deskasya you also have it. Because the ayin is there, but it's just ayin. So it's called Alma deskasya, it's concealed. Concealed doesn't mean there's a blanket over it. Concealed means it doesn't have any sense of separateness. And therefore there's no madregas. Not because there's no madregas, they're all there.
It's our issue.
It's our.
It's not the issue of the source, it's the
Right.
issue of us perceiving.
Yes. So all the madregas are there, but the madregas don't have their own yeshus or autonomy or independence. And he says, "Va'ayin mashakasav b'ramascha v'yai sosi adagdela sheshayrish beis b'chinas eshavos nimshach me beis shemes havaya." Doesn't get into it, but in Yigim with this Harachim, you have Hashem kel rachim v'chanon. So one Hashem produces Alma deskasya, one produces Alma desgalya. And va'ayin mashakasav b'ramascha yonasik avi masha'oimnim neshama shenasata b'tohirihi va'achar kach oimer ata barasa. Hard to do. Over exaggerate what lay in this line. Every morning we say Lekaina Shamash and Asata bi Tahiri Atavarasa. Now chronologically this is a little off because the first thing should have been you created it. Neshamash and Asata bi Atavarasa, you created it. Now let's talk about it. It's pure, it's good, it's holy, it's nice, it's cute, it's charming, it's handsome. Whatever you want to say about your neshama, whatever you want to tell the Shadchan, fine. But first tell me you created it. This means that there's something in the neshama before barasa. Elakai neshama shenasata b'tahira, he is before barasa. Ata barasa starts a new process. What are these two states of neshama? These are the two antennas of the soul. Elakai neshama shenasata b'tahira is a neshama that's higher than bria. Why is it a neshama that's higher than bria? This is the neshama of Alma deskasya, the neshama that is still in the state of ayin. So you can't say you created it. It's there, but it's completely part of the ma'ir, it's part of the sun itself. Even though it's all there. The rays are there. It's not like the sun lacks light waves, it's not like the sun is deprived of light waves, but you don't talk, the light waves are just part of the Ein Sof. Then you have Atavarasa. That's the source of the neshama, completely one, and that never changes. Then you have Atavarasa, a layer of the soul where it actually assumes a created being. It's still spiritual and divine and holy, it's not corruptible. Then you have Ata Yitzarta, that's Yitzira. Then you have Ata Nefachta. Then you have Ata Meshamra B'Kibri, where Yirisham actually needs Shmira. That's in this world. So you have here the whole evolutionary process. Tahirihi is Alma deskasya. Ata Varasa is creation. Ata Yitzarta, Ata Nefachta Bi, from Yitzira and Asiyah. And then Ata Meshamra B'Kibri, Ata Asid Little Memeni. So therefore you have really layers of personality, and they're all there. Which part of you is true? Depends. Which part you zoom into. There's the element of consciousness that transcends consciousness. That's neshama shenasata b'tahirihi. And then you have atavarasa, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi. Balatanya has a taich that this is shemen zayis zach tahir. The Gemara says in Erev in Daf Yud Gimel that for 2.5 years Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argued. Very, very interesting argument. The nature of the argument is only Jews would argue about this for 2.5 years, and that is, would have it been better to be created or not? Now, these are not people who were having chas v'shalom suicidal thoughts. These were the leaders of the generation. Beis Shammai says it would have been much better if we were never created. Okay, wonderful news, Beis Shammai. Thank you. Beis Hillel said no, it would have been much better if we were created. After 2.5 years, the Gemara says, and the Gemara's after says 2.5. Like not chas v'shalom 3 and not 2, 2.5. Nimnu v'gamru. They decided to take a vote. What's that going to help? Okay, but they're going to take a vote. What's the vote? Beis Shammai wins. It would have been much better if you were not created than if you were created. I said where I grew up there was a Yid. His name was Zalman the Shikr. He was a classic alcoholic, but of a unique type, not Kiddush clubbers. He would sit on the Eastern Parkway Island all day with a bottle of Crown Royal, and he would drink, and he had very interesting thoughts. So he once told me, he said that all his philosophy in life comes from the first Rashi in Chumash. It says, Bereishis bara l'kimas hashamayim v'saaretz. God created the world. So Rashi right away says, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak lo hayot tzarech. There was really no need for it. That's it. God created the world. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. You should have done something else with your precious time. There was really no need. So only somebody who's been around the block a couple of times can have that heritage in Rashi. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak lo hayatzarach. So what's pshat? What noyach lo shalom? What's it mean? What are Jews debating? Hashem decided to create a world. So 2,000 years later, Beishamai and Beisila sit down and say, was it a good idea or not a good idea? First of all, nobody asked you. If you haven't what's this debating Gemara? Do you like it? You don't like it? Fine. Machlokes among Chazal. Noyach lo shaloi nivra yosem mishnivra. And what's the psak? Psak is it was better without it. But the whole Sefer Bereshis, so who are we arguing with? God thinks it's a good idea. You decided it's a bad idea. Really? I mean, it's surprising for the Gemara. It's surprising for the Gemara. You think it's a bad idea? Okay. Tell your wife it's a bad idea. If you were God, don't do this. You don't want it, there's ways to get rid of it. I mean, what's this argument? So the pshat is al pi the Torah of the Balatanya, he says it's a very deep argument. Is the purpose of life to go to a space of loy nivra or to go to a space of nivra? Alakai neshama shenasata bi. Beishamai said noyach loy la'adam shaloy nivra yosem mishnivra. The real noichius, the real nachas, the real menucha of a person is if he goes to the state of loy nivra, to his own space where he's pre-bria, neshama shenasata bi tahoirehi yosem mishnivra. Ultimately, that's the purpose of Yiddishkeit, the ability to be able to extricate yourself and be able to go back to that space of loy nivra yosem mishnivra. And Basil argued, Basil said, no, the Kavana was dafke noyach leil adam, to bring it into nivra, which is two streams of Beishamai and Basil in the whole Yiddishkeit. If heaven was created first, the earth was created first, for Beishamai there's one agenda, for Basil there's another agenda. The two meet, Eilu ve'elu divrei lekim chayim. So nimnu v'gamru noyach leil adam shaloi nivra yosem mishnivra. But v'achshav shenivra yefashpesh b'maisa. That's what he says here at the end, that in the neshama there's a reflection of these two strands. One is the strand of tahirihi, and then there's atavarasu.
Is it possible to get to that state?
Huh? You don't have to get to that state. That state is. That state is. The question is, could you become aware of that state? You don't have to get to that state. That's the whole idea. Neshama shenasata bi tahirihi. It is tahira. Real healing. The reason Beishamai wants that state is because real healing comes from there. Real healing comes from there. Because all trauma begins with the transition from ayin to yesh. All trauma begins with the transition from ayin to yesh. And people search to go back to the ayin. Now the way it's expressed in our world is sometimes very destructive. You just want to go back to the ayin, you want to go to a place of nihilism. What is it called? Nihilism. Thank you.
Drugs.
Huh?
Drugs.
Call it drugs or other forms, but you're looking for the ayin. Spiritually, what are you looking for? You're looking for the original ayin. You're looking for the original ayin, huh? The original ayin, yeah, the loy nivra. This is what he said. There's a constant process. This is a perpetual process. It's not once. In other words, the world has many layers. You could put on different glasses and you see a different world. You see a world from Asiya. You see an external world. You see an internal world. Just like a layman and a scientist. I look and I see a styrofoam cup. That's it I see. Maybe a little coffee inside. Now it's empty. Another person looks at it. You come with a
electron microscope.
With a magnifying glass, or you come with a
electron microscope.
Okay, an electron microscope, even stammer microscope, certainly an electron microscope. Suddenly you see a whole other reality, right? And then you see a world of molecules, and you see a world of billions, trillions, sectillions, atoms. Move against the world. We call it daimim. It's not so daimim. It's pretty alive. Which is true? They're all true. It's different layers of existence. Right, so it starts off with ayin. We'll say it's with ayin. There's no metzias, alma diskasya. It's all there, but it doesn't have a hergish. There's no hergish. So the real trauma of existence, the real trauma, as we'll see, starts off with the first process, consciousness. The tragedy of civilization is the transition from ayin to yesh, from loy nivra to nivra. The whole world was there, but nothing felt itself as a metzias. And because it didn't feel itself as a metzias, it was actually one with itself, one with its source. The real trauma of existence begins the moment there's a transition from a state of ayin to a state of yesh, even when it's still in the womb of its mother, even when it's still pure divine energy. Then there's other forms of yesh, but that's the beginning of the trauma of existence, so to speak, is that transition to a state of consciousness, even divine consciousness. Yes. That is the process. The process of creation is the courage to leave the womb, the primordial womb, and to become independent and fragmented. And in that process, one breaks because they're detached. Right?
Feel detached.
They feel detached.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.